Good evening from Switzerland and a warm welcome to this Odoo Experience talk. This talk is about the Pronovo case management, a customer success story about supporting sustainable energy through a digitized and efficient application process managed in Odoo. My name is Damian Bürgin. I work as project manager and consultant for Braintec-group. Braintec-group is Odoo Gold Partner and winner of the Best Odoo Partner EMA Award 2016 and 2020. This year, we were again nominated as Best Odoo Partner EMA 2021. As this talk is pre-recorded, I hope we won in the meantime, 2 times in a row. That would be awesome. Next to me, I'm happy to present Hans-Jörg Bless. Hans-Jörg is Pronova board member and head of operations. Including, among others, he's responsible for the application process of the federal support program for new photovoltaic systems in Switzerland. Hans-Jörg also acted as project manager during the Odoo implementation. Hans-Jörg, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Damian. It's great to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans-Jörg. So how does the agenda look like? First, Hans-Jörg will present Pronovo. So what Pronovo is doing and what their mission is. Second, I will talk about the application process in theory and how Odoo supports it. After that, I will go into Odoo in order to show the most important features we have implemented. And finally, Hans-Jörg will talk about the change Pronovo was dealing with after the go-live.
Now, let me quickly introduce you to our company. With its 70 employees, Pronovo is a medium-sized company located in Frick, Switzerland. On behalf of the Swiss federal government, Pronovo is processing subsidy programs for renewable energies since 2018. Among other things, Pronovo reviews around 25,000 applications for subsidies for new photovoltaic projects every year and then pays out the corresponding subsidies. Until the digitalization of this process with Odoo, the entire process was exclusively paper-based. Since April 21, the process has been consistently digitalized with approximately 3,500 front-end and around 70 backend users. So, how are these subsidies financed? Every electricity user pays a small surcharge on every kilowatt hour consumed. This surcharge is then used, among other things, to promote newly built photovoltaic systems. These are projects by private individuals as well as projects realized by companies. The size of the subsidy depends primarily on the performance capacity of the new plant. In summary, this means the Swiss federal government provides us money with which we promote new photovoltaic projects.
So how does the Pronovo application process look like in theory? Please imagine a house owner buying a new photovoltaic system and let it install on the roof in order to produce his or her own sustainable energy. After the installation, the owner goes into the Pronovo portal, which is the Odoo Frontend, and creates a new application. After providing all information and after the check by an independent supervisory person, the application is finally submitted to Pronovo. Working in Odoo Backend, Pronovo is checking all provided information, and if these information are completed and valid, Pronovo pays back a part of the procurement cost in form of a federal subsidy. Okay, so now I'm happy to present the tool with a short live demo. First, I will show the front end in order to provide a look and feel about the application process from an applicant perspective. Second, I will show how the front end can be adapted due to the dynamic options the tool offers. And finally, I will show the backend and how the submitted cases are further processed. So here I am on the login page of the frontend, and I quickly log myself in. So here we have a two-factor authentication with SMS. So we connected the tool to the Swiss biggest communication provider, Swisscom. So that means the user gets an SMS after logging in, and he or she needs to provide it afterwards. If the SMS code is correct, the user lands on the overview page of the case management tool. So what we see here is that the tool is in German. We have additionally translated it to French and Italian, unfortunately not in English, but I guess for getting a good overview, this should be enough. So here we see three different first level categories a case can have. We have cases which are currently in progress and not yet submitted to Pronovo. We have submitted cases to Pronovo, and we have finished cases for which the subsidy is already paid out. Within such a category, of course, we see all the applications with a status. So the user always knows what Pronovo is currently doing with the case. We have information about the photovoltaic system. And very important, we have the status of the supervision. Because each application needs to be checked by an independent party before submitting it to Pronovo. Before, it's not possible. Therefore, the user needs to wait until the button is green and the informations are checked. So what I do now is I create a new case in order to get to the case form view, the most important part of the front end. So this is the case form view, and on the left-hand side, we see the categories, and we see subcategories. And each categories includes questions. We have implemented almost all types of questions. So that means we have radio buttons, we have date fields, text fields. We even have questions which refers to another model in Odoo Backend, for example, REST partners. And what we also have are document upload questions. So what is very important from a user experience is the color of the categories and of the question. So that means when a user switch from one category to another and required fields are not filled out yet, it turns red or orange. And as soon as the question is answered, it turns green. As soon as all required questions are answered, the category turns green. And as soon all categories turn green, of course, then the case is ready to submit. What is also very important from a user experience is the automated saving process we have implemented. So for example, when I switch the language from Switzerland to San Marino, we see here without any click, the data is saved. So that means the user never has to be afraid that any informations are lost when logging out. But what is the most important feature I want to show now is the dynamic options this tool offers. And to show this, I need to switch to the backend. So here I am in the backend in order to show you how we can adapt the front end out of the backend. For doing that, I entered the case management module, which we newly created during that project. And I go into the configuration question categories. So what we see here are all categories which we have seen before in the front end on the left-hand side. And what I do now is I create a new category. Let's say this category belongs to the parent category Anlagenbetreiber, and therefore this gets a subcategory. So now we have a category. Now let's create a question. So the question is, what is the size of the photovoltaic system? Again, I create a sequence number. Then I can choose the question type. Let's say it's a radio question. The possible answers are big, medium, and small. Now, very important, I link the question to the newly created subcategory. And because there are a lot of interfaces implemented, I need to provide a REST API key. And now I save it. What I do now is I create a second question in order to show how we can configure relations between questions. So again, I create one and I say, what's the color of it? This time I take a text field. I can configure how many characters the text can have. Let's say 12. Then the sequence, because I want to show it below the other question. Again, I take the category, Odoo experience category. And now I quickly want to show you what other options I can configure on the question. So first of all, I can define a default value. This value will always be set when I create a new case form. Then I can configure whether this field is required, not required, or required based on answers in other questions. Same for read-only, same for being visible or not. And the option of being visible or not, I quickly want to configure. So let's say this question is only visible if another question, and now I choose the one I just created before. What's the size of the photovoltaic system? If this question contains big, because this was the first possible answer of the radio button question. I save this. Besides that, I can also copy answers from one question to another. Very important in that tool, in order to be sure the data quality is good, I can configure validations. And as I said before, as we have implemented many interfaces in and out of the tool, there are options to configure interfaces. Good. So now let's save this. Oh, now I just forgot the key. Must be unique. I chose maybe the same one before. So now I save the second question. And now what I also want to do, I want to configure a button. We have many buttons in the front end. Now I create a new one. Inform the owner. The category again, the created Odoo experience category. The sequence is 3 now. And out of this button, I can also configure many options. This button can make other question visible or not, read only or not. It can validate other questions. It can also send emails out and ask for confirmation, getting confirmation messages, etc., etc. So there are plenty of options to do that. So I save it. So now I have a category, 2 questions. They are related to each other. And third, I have a button. Now let's go to the front end and reload. And voila, I have a new category. I have a question, only one, but let's see what happens if I choose big. Voila, a new question shows up. So this is super easy, super convenient for the client in order to adapt its front end. And also during the implementation, it was great because we provided as a Odoo partner the tools to the client, to Pronovo, and they could adapt the tool and prototype the tool by themselves. So this is great, and I think this was the biggest success factor in that project. Now let's go back to the backend. So now I want to quickly explain how the backend process in Pronovo looks like when applications are finally submitted. I enter the case management module again, and what I see here are application categories. So based on sizes or go-live dates of photovoltaic systems, the cases go into one of these categories after submitting. Now I go into one of them, and here I see two cases which I created before. So when I submitted this case, the case went to this stage, which I can configure. And then the case goes, of course, through all the stages until the end, when the case is finally paid out. That means when the subsidy is paid out. So you see the different stages, which is the core element of these categories. And in all of these categories, there are different stages because in each category, there are completely different processes. So this brings full flexibility to Pronovo. So let me quickly go into the stages in order to show you what we can configure. So what is very important is we can define that the name of the stage, which is shown in the front end, is different to the one in the back end. What is also possible, we can configure emails which are sent out when a case comes to one stage, or also reminder emails when a case stays on one stage for too long. What is also very important for Pronovo is being able to configure whether a communication is triggered again when a case comes to a certain stage again. Then we have access rights configurations. And of course, we can also say from which stage to another a case can be pushed. And this is very important as well because Pronovo has very, very accurate processes where the application go through. And then, of course, we have plenty of other configurations, which I cannot describe in detail because of the lack of time. But what is also clear is that the numbers of interfaces which we have implemented are also triggered when a case comes to a stage. So for example, when a case comes to one of the final stages, the subsidy payout assignment is automatically triggered to another system. And therefore, this makes the tool very convenient for the users of Pronovo. So that's it for the backend, and that's it for the live demo. Thank you very much.
So what has changed for us since the go live of the case management tool? First of all, as already mentioned, the underlying process was purely paper-based before the implementation of this project with our partner Braintec with Odoo. This was one of the biggest changes. Suddenly, all data were already in the systems right at the beginning. As we had many different documents, numerous data fields had to be entered repeatedly on several forms. The individual applicant, who often only goes through this process once, was completely lost on what stage his application has been. There was a missing overview and not much guidance in terms of what exactly was needed for a complete application. The time-consuming processing of the incoming paper applications additionally led to long waiting times and uncertainty for applicants. The pressure towards digitalization was obvious and was increasingly demanded by the market. With the implementation of our tool on a digital basis, it was possible to ensure that each and every data field for an application had to be recorded only once. The user guidance in the application portal is straightforward and understandable. This, as well as the smooth go live of the application tool by mid-April 21, led to very positive feedback from the market actors and strengthened our image in the market a lot. 3 different parties are involved to complete an application. With a great access right concept, controlling access rights on categories, subcategories, or even on a question level, it was possible to ensure that these actors can provide their information together in one application. Status tracking is possible for the applicant at any time. With this, as well as with numerous data plausibility checks that are now carried out by the tool, a solid improvement in terms of data quality and completeness of the incoming applications has been achieved. This saves a ton of time internally. In sum, this makes our work clearly easier, much more efficient, and significantly reduces the number of interactions with the applicants due to missing or wrong information. Last but not least, the waiting times up until the payout of the subsidy were significantly reduced. Thank you very much, Braintec. Thank you very much, Odoo.
Now, this was our Odoo experience talk. We hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again, Hans-Jörg, for your time.
Welcome.
And to you guys, thank you, danke, vergelt's Gott, merci, and muchas gracias. Best regards from Switzerland.
Ja, zusammen.
Hi everyone and welcome to the Q&A session. Damian, Hans-Jörg, first of all, thank you very much also for joining us. So as you probably saw, we have already a few questions lined up in the chat. I will simply go through these questions right now so we can discuss them together. Hans-Jörg, I would like to start with you and the question if you're actually planning to manage other application processes in Odoo in the future.
Okay, thanks for the question. Actually, we are just about to replace the core system that we are using so far, and apart from the photovoltaic process, we are also planning to build the water, the biomass, wind, etc. Categories on Odoo-based platform. We are about to publish the public tender within the next few weeks, so this will be definitely on our agenda very soon, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for the answer, Hans-Jörg. Damian, what would you say is or was the most complex part of this case management tool?
I would say the access right concept for the front-end user, because at the end, I think we had almost 10 different front-end access right groups, because as I mentioned in the video, in the same case form are working different parties, and each of these parties have different access rights in terms of reading, writing, submitting case forms, using the buttons, etc. And this was quite a challenge to set this up, and also how a user can get such a role. And everything is automated. Everything is based on emails, where companies get emails. They can accept whether a user gets this role or not. And our developers did a huge job.
Okay, Damian, thank you very much for that answer too. Hans-Jörg, to come back to you, and also since we're talking about challenges, from a customer perspective, what was the biggest challenge in such a big digitalization process?
Well, overall, it was all about consequently avoiding any need for paper or original signatures and all that. So as different parties are involved, different role holders are involved in the whole process, it's critical to very well understand what the different duties are, what the different roles are, so that you can build a tool with a smooth process, with the access right concept, which was mentioned by Damian already, so that these roles go hand in hand with each other, and at the end, in order to at the same time avoid any paper at all. So that overall was very critical.
Okay, thank you very much. Damian, you were mentioning before some changes in the front end and in the back end. What would you say took you more time during this project?
Yeah, as I said, this tool is fully dynamically built. That means the client can configure the whole front end by themselves. So this is very, very nice. That's also what Hans-Jörg mentioned before. If they want to bring something into the tool, other energy sources like water power, for example, they can almost do it by themselves. They don't need Braintec because they configure everything by themselves. And this is so great. This is super convenient. And the thing is, because you can configure everything out of the backend, of course, the backend was the biggest part during that project.
Okay. Thank you, Damian. Another one of the questions for Hans-Jörg is actually about Odoo and the customer portal. What is it that you like the most about Odoo and their customer portal?
Well, it's basically the overall result, which ended up in a great acceptance of the different users as of the beginning, actually. So when we went live, it was working. It was well accepted by the different users. So that was really great. And what you, Damian, mentioned already, this freedom with this dynamic approach, this possibility to configure adaptations, changes ourselves, which gives us a very large extent the freedom to do all that ourselves. Then, of course, the smart setup of the access rights, which was very important and decisive. And at the end, it was basically reaching our goal to get fully rid of all the paper, and last but not least, gaining a significant degree of additional efficiency.
Great. Thank you, Hans-Jörg. And we're unfortunately already coming to the end of this Q&A. Damian, maybe some last words, last thoughts about the presentation?
Yeah, I want to thank Hans-Jörg especially because he took that video with me. It took quite a long time, as you can imagine, but we had a lot of fun, and we as Braintec, we were very happy that we could achieve such a great tool together with Pronovo. And yeah, let's see what the future brings.
Thank you very much for joining us, everyone, in this live Q&A, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Bye-bye.